They tell me I'm from Oconomowoc. My driver's license says it. My birth certificate, a document I have stared at until the text swims before my eyes, says it, but paper is just wood pulp and ink, and digital records are just pixels commanded by people who know how to rewrite history. I know where I am from. I am from a town that the world has decided never existed. I am from Doveland, Wisconsin. I'm writing this because the headaches are getting worse and the memories are starting to fray at the edges like an old photograph left in the sun. I need to put this down before the static in my head drowns out the truth. If you look at a map of Wisconsin today, specifically the area within the Chequamegon National Forest, you won't find us. You might see a dense patch of trees, or perhaps a small, unnamed body of water that looks suspiciously perfectly round on Google Earth. But in 1988, that wasn't a forest. It was a town of about 1,000 people. We had a post office. We had a strip mall with a hardware store that smelled like sawdust and oil. We had Doveland High, home of the Badgers. I can still feel the scratchy wool of my varsity jacket, the weight of it on my shoulders. The erasure wasn't instant. It wasn't like a bomb went off. It was a slow, strangling death that we were too naive to understand until it was too late. It started with the economy, or so they said. This was the late 80s. Rural America was hurting, but in Doveland, it was different. Shops didn't just close, they were abandoned overnight. I remember walking past the bakery on Main Street and seeing the dough still rising in the metal bowls on the counter, covered in a fuzz of green mold, the door locked tight. People stopped going out. The streets, usually busy with the mundane traffic of small town life, became desolate. That was when the military trucks started rolling in. They were unmarked, dull olive drab transports with canvas covers that flapped in the wind. They moved at night. As a teenager, my friends and God, I can't even remember their faces clearly anymore. We used to sneak out to the quarry to watch them. They drove toward the restricted zones in the woods. We didn't know then what Project Sanguine was. We just knew that the adults stopped talking when the trucks rumbled by, their coffee cups rattling in their saucers. The conspiracies are all true. I know because I lived through the symptoms. Project Sanguine. The Navy called it a communication system for submarines. They buried miles of cables deep into the bedrock of Wisconsin, turning the very earth beneath us into a gigantic antenna. They said it was extremely low frequency, ELF, waves, harmless radio bursts to talk to nuclear subs deep in the Atlantic. They lied. You could feel the hum. It wasn't a sound you heard with your ears. It was a vibration that lived in your teeth and behind your eyes. It started in the summer of '89. The birds were the first to react. You'd find them dead on the lawns, no marks on them, just dropped out of the sky mid-flight. Then the dogs started howling, a collective, mournful wail that swept across the town at exactly 3 a.m. every night. Then came the fog. It wasn't normal mist from the lake. It was thick, yellow-tinged, and it smelled like copper and ozone. It rolled in and sat heavy in the valley, dampening sound. When you walked through it, the hair on your arms stood up. We joked about the Doveland fog, calling it the government's way of hotboxing us. We didn't know how right we were, My father changed during those months. He was a kind man, a mechanic, but he became paranoid. He started taping aluminum foil over the windows. He claimed he could hear voices coming through the unpowered television set. "They're testing us," he whispered to me one night, his eyes bloodshot and wide. "Psychotronic warfare, behavioral modification. We aren't a town anymore, son. We're a petri dish." I thought he was snapping under the financial pressure, but then I saw the men in the suits. They weren't police. They weren't local. They wore charcoal suits that looked too stiff, driving black sedans with government plates. They went door to door. I watched from my upstairs window as they visited the neighbors across the street, the Millers. The Millers left the next morning. They didn't pack a moving van. They just got in their car, leaving the front door wide open, and drove away. I never saw them again. The official story, among the few conspiracy theorists who even remember the name Doveland, is that the town was bought out due to economic collapse and razed to return the land to nature. But you don't raze a town and leave no foundation. You don't wipe a place off the map so thoroughly that even the road signs are removed unless you are trying to hide something catastrophic. The end came in the winter of 1990. The snow was falling, but it was gray, stained by the pollution of whatever they were pumping into the air. The hum was so loud that night it made me nauseous. My mother woke me up at 4 a.m. She was crying, but she was moving with a terrifying robotic efficiency. "We have to go," she said. "Pack one bag. Nothing with a logo, nothing with the name Doveland on it." "Why?" I asked, groggy and scared. "Because it never happened," she said. It was the strangest thing I'd ever heard her say. "We are leaving, and none of this ever happened." We drove out in a convoy of confused, terrified residents. Military police guided us at the checkpoints. They didn't look at us. They looked through us. As we crossed the town line, I looked back. I expected to see fires or maybe the glow of an explosion. Instead, I saw the fog swirling violently, lit from within by pulsating violet lights. It looked like a storm contained in a bottle, and then we turned the bend, and Doveland was gone. The relocation was efficient. We were scattered, given new histories. My parents refused to speak of it until the day they died. If I brought it up, my father would leave the room, and my mother would stare blankly at the wall and hum a hymn. For years, I thought I was crazy. I was diagnosed with false memory syndrome. Therapists told me Doveland was a coping mechanism, a fantasy world I invented to deal with a childhood trauma I couldn't face. I almost believed them. I tried to integrate into the world. I got a job. I got married. I tried to be from Oconomowoc, but the cracks in the facade are everywhere if you look. Go to Google Earth. Look at the coordinates where Doveland should be. You'll see the pixelation. It's subtle, but the trees repeat. It's a clone stamp job, a texture patch pasted over a hole in reality. Why would they mask a forest? What is down there that they can't let satellites see? Some say the town is still there, underground. That Project Sanguine wasn't just about communication, but about excavation, that they built a silo city beneath us, and we were the surface camouflage until they were ready to seal it up. Others say the elf waves work too well. that they tore a hole in something fundamental, and the town slipped through, trapped in a pocket dimension where it's always 1990, and the hum never stops. I spent years scouring eBay and thrift stores. That's the smoking gun. If a town never existed, why is there merchandise? 3 years ago, in a Goodwill in Appleton, I found it. My hands shook as I pulled it from the rack. It was a faded white mug, chipped at the rim. On the side, in unmistakable bold blue font, Doveland Diner, best cherry pie in the county. I bought it for 50 cents. I hold it when the headaches get bad. It is physical, tactile proof that I am not insane. But the scariest part isn't the military, or the aliens, or the dimensional rifts. It's the silence. It's the fact that thousands of people were displaced, and the world just swallowed the lie. How many other Dovelands are there? How many of you reading this have a childhood memory of a park, or a street, or a friend that doesn't fit the official timeline? I went back there last week. I drove to the coordinates. The road just ends. There is a rusted barrier and a sign that says restricted area, ecological recovery zone. Beyond the barrier, the woods are too quiet. No crickets, no birds, just a low vibrating thrum that you feel in your teeth. I walked past the sign. I had to know. I walked for an hour into the dense brush. The terrain was uneven, like rubble that had been bulldozed over and seeded with grass. And then I tripped. My boot caught on something jutting out of the mud. I knelt down and dug with my bare hands, tearing at the roots and the dirt until my fingernails bled. It was a piece of masonry, a brick, and attached to the brick was a fragment of a metal plaque. It read, Elin High School, Class of 19. I sat there in the dirt and wept, not out of relief, but out of terror, because as I sat there, holding that piece of my history, I heard the sound of a twig snapping behind me. I turned around. Standing in the trees about 50 yards away was a man. He was wearing a charcoal suit. He wasn't looking at me with anger. He looked at me with a profound, pitying sadness. He raised a radio to his lips. I ran. I ran until my lungs burned, until I reached my car. And I drove until the gaslight screamed. I'm posting this from a library computer 3 towns over. I don't think I have much time. The hum is getting louder. I can hear it even now over the hum of the computer fan. It's calling me back. If you find a mug or a shirt or a varsity jacket from a place you've never heard of, don't throw it away. It's an anchor. It's proof. Doveland was real. We were real. And God help us, I think we're still there, waiting for the fog to clear.